I do thank Tim and the team of Morgans for the opportunity to speak with you this morning, and for you to invest your time in getting an update on New Hope Corporation. A lot of people aren't aware that New Hope Group is actually the largest listed resources company headquartered in Queensland. So we yesterday actually had a market cap of 1.9 bill. We employ 550 people directly, and over 2,000 people rely on their employment from what we do. 2017 has been a good year for us, with a profit after tax before non-regulars of 128.7 million. We are controlled by the Washington HELE Patterson Group, which is actually the second oldest listed company in Australia, having been listed, I think, in 1903. We've won awards for our sustainable business practice, in particular the standard of our rehabilitation at the Acland mine, and the operation of Acland Pastoral, which operates a herd of around 3,000 head. We actually have 45 of our employees members of what we call our 25-year club. So we celebrate their longevity as employees with us, that core of 45 employees having 25 years or more experience is a rare thing these days. And we think, as management, provides us with a competitive advantage. So just a few core achievements from 2017. Earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortisation, 283.1 million. Really been marked by our first full year of ownership of 40% of the Bengalla Operation in New South Wales. I'll quickly go through some of these points. You can see there the performance of the investment in Bengalla. So we invested just over 900 million Australian dollars on the 1st of March 16. And for those that follow the coal markets, coal prices increased in June 16. And that investment generated revenues of 322.6 million last year and 147 million in earnings before interest, tax, and depreciation. So now we produce 8.6 million tonnes, which is up significantly on 2016. The business is performing very well financially. Final dividend of 6 cents per share, taking full dividends for the year of 10 cents per share, fully franked. So that's our production profile, and you can see we're entering into another growth phase, having really generated a significant amount of cash. So we sold an asset in 2008-9 for 2.45 billion. We sat on that cash for a long period of time as the industry went through one of its usual downturns. The coal industry, for very sound economic reasons, is a cyclical industry. Most of us have seen a lot of coal cycles. They're typically 7 years from peak to peak or trough to trough, plus or minus 2. So it's very important to get your timing right with asset acquisitions or sales. We believe that now is a good time to start to grow our production and sales. You can see here in cents per share the performance of the company in 2017 versus 2016 and the turnaround in profitability. Just a reminder of the history of our organisation. So over the past decade, New Hope has actually paid out $1.8 billion in dividends to shareholders. So our current market cap is 1.9, and over the last decade we've paid out $1.8 billion. So now I'd like to make a few comments with regards to energy policy in Australia and the future of coal. They're related, I'll make these points quickly. This cartoon is actually sort of demonstrates the dilemma that South Australia has got itself into, being a state in a first world country with a third world power system. And they've done that by choice. So with a target of 50% intermittent renewables and currently sitting at 40%, it's shown that South Australia's energy system is not reliable. So the government has been forced to purchase over 250 megawatts of diesel generators to get itself through this Christmas. So they've purchased 9 very large diesel generators, and they're not telling the public how much this is costing. I travelled and did a lot of business in India over a decade ago, and that energy system is now what South Australia has adopted. If you stayed anywhere in India a decade ago, every hotel had its own diesel generator. This is not affordable, and it's not environmentally friendly. So yes, they're going to be building our submarines in South Australia. Bit of a concern. So what are our neighbours doing and what's our market doing in Asia? So we sell thermal coal into Asia. Asia is really about 3 to 5 years ahead of Australia in discussing energy, and it's been traumatic for them as well. We've seen what's happened in Japan since Fukushima, where basically 23% of Japan's power system was shut down. And that country was able to continue economic production. Why? Because they had diversity in energy supply. So you can see here the actual facts with regards to the cost per megawatt hour delivered of the various energy types. And you can see yes, wind and solar have been declining in price, but solar only produces power when the sun shines, and wind only produces power when the wind blows. It's hard to operate an aluminium smelter or a large manufacturing organisation or almost anything with an intermittent power supply. And the costs of backing that power supply up with battery storage are incredibly high. So coal generation has advantages, both economic and from a security point of view. You can see here the actual average output per gigawatt of installed capacity. And this just puts numbers to what I previously said, in that wind only blows for about half the time, and solar for considerably less. So when people say that coal doesn't have a future, that's not what our customers are saying in Asia. We must remember that a lot of our news comes from North America and Europe. And Europe is dependent upon North Sea and Russian gas. And North America has vast quantities of cheap domestic gas with a fantastic infrastructure of gas pipelines. Asia does not. So Asia has made its decision and it's implementing that decision. They've chosen to install wind and solar. So yes, renewables are part of the solution, but only part. They're backing that up with gas, some nuclear, and coal. It's important to note that that increase in coal demand from 2014 to 2040 represents 10 times the output of Australia's electricity generation system. The opportunities are vast. So we come to the trilemma. Asia has determined that it can meet its Paris Protocol commitments through the introduction of HELE power. Coal technology is not standing still. It is not old technology. Windmills actually are sort of 15th century technology when one thinks about it. And solar actually also, it's 1950s technology. So all these technologies are advancing. Coal is advancing quickly, particularly with the Japanese, throughout Asia. So Australia needs to learn these lessons as well. It can't afford renewables at any cost. Power prices in Queensland have tripled over the past decade. I want to have a future for my children that enables them to explore opportunities for employment in manufacturing, in engineering. I don't want them to be forced into pulling beers for Chinese tourists. And I don't think you want your children and grandchildren to have that future either. Thank you. I'll just hand over to Andrew.
Shane mentioned the cyclical nature of the coal industry, and I think this chart demonstrates that. This is 10 years worth of coal prices. The Newcastle Index, which some of you will be familiar with, it moves up and down. This is a US dollar price. And we particularly like this chart because of the somewhat fortuitous timing of the Bengalla acquisition, which happened right at the right point of the cycle from our perspective, and prices have moved. They've doubled since that acquisition, so hence that acquisition is contributing very strongly to our business. As I said, this is a US dollar chart, so it's important to remember that the peak back in 2011-12, we were at parity with the US dollar, or even up to sort of $1.10. Where we are at the moment, we've got close to $100 US coal prices, and exchange rates around 75 cents. So on an $8 basis, we're actually in better territory now than we were back in that peak of 11-12. So good times. Bengalla, Shane talked a little bit about Bengalla. It has been a pivotal acquisition for New Hope. It's diversified our earnings, it's given us exposure to new markets, and it's performing very strongly. Slightly over half of our earnings comes from Bengalla currently. We're in joint venture there with Wesfarmers, Mitsui and Taipower. We've developed very strong joint venture relationships with those organisations, and the place is running well with an independent management team that's based on site. We're certainly, we spend a lot of time focusing on Bengalla and how that operation is running, and we certainly look for opportunities to stamp some of the New Hope DNA on that operation as well. Another exciting development that's occurred just over the last couple of months is our acquisition of the Burton mine from Peabody. So Burton is up in central Queensland, up north of Nebo. Peabody put Burton on care and maintenance back in December 2016, so it hasn't been operating for 12 months. We saw an opportunity there to acquire the infrastructure associated with Burton, because we have an adjoining mining lease to the north called Lenton, which is a project that can be developed, albeit it needed infrastructure and it needed access to rail for it to be developed. So what the acquisition of the Burton asset does is it really gives us a pathway to market for our Lenton deposit, and we completed that acquisition in late November. We have a team of people up on site as we speak. We're madly running around assessing, doing a detailed assessment of the infrastructure and other aspects of that operation with a view to trying to get an operation running and first coal to market in early calendar 2019. So that will certainly consume a lot of the organisation's time over the next 12 months and is an exciting development for New Hope. Gives us exposure to the metallurgical coal market and gives us further diversification of our products, our markets and our geographic spread. So exciting news. For those that can see that plan there, it's a little difficult to see, but if I can bring a mouse up. This is the Burton infrastructure here. There's a long haul road that goes down to the rail down at the southern end of the mine, and this is our Lenton deposit immediately to the north. New Acland, so the largest from a production perspective asset that we have in the business. It's 100% owned by New Hope, been operating since 2002 and produces in the order of 5 million tonnes per annum. Last year, 4.6 million tonnes. It's a low-cost operation, and it needs to be a low-cost operation because the infrastructure costs, the costs of bringing the coal down to Brisbane are expensive. It's an old, inefficient rail system. It's small trains, but despite that, we're able to do some good things at Acland, and it financially performing very well. We focus strongly on our community impacts and our community engagement at Acland. Acland is just north of the town of Oakey. We have in the order of 80 neighbours or near neighbours, a lot of small land holdings in that part of the world. It's largely old dairy country, small land holdings. So we spend a lot of time and effort with our neighbours explaining what we're doing, explaining how what we're doing might impact on them, and just generally building that relationship and building our role in the community. We are the second largest employer in the Oakey community, and very important to the economic success of that part of the world. Stage 2, as many of you will know, the existing Stage 2 operations are becoming exhausted. We have a couple of years' worth of coal left there, but we're fast running out of area to mine in Stage 2, which is why in 2007 we embarked on an application process for the Stage 3 operation, which provides another 15 plus years of operations at New Acland. We're still in that approvals journey. I won't get political in this discussion, but it has been arduous. It's been 10 years that we've been trying to seek approvals for that operation. There are over 500 jobs that rely or are dependent on Stage 3 proceeding. And I think one of the things that we've learnt, particularly recently, is whilst we have always known that we had strong community support for our operations, we have all the polling and all the work that we've done over time has indicated that about 70% of the community are supporters, about 10 or 15% are detractors, and there are 10 or 15% that really don't care. The problem we've had is the 70% of supporters haven't really had a voice. The detractors often get a strong voice, and they get supported by other interest groups and money from further afield. Our local supporters sometimes struggle to get a voice, and recently our community supporters came to us and said, look, we feel like we're not being heard. We feel like we're the silent majority. And so we backed them with financial resources for them to be able to tell their story. And a lot of you would have seen newspaper, TV and heard radio advertisements recently about the Save Regional Towns campaign, which we think has been a great thing both for galvanising the community and providing our community with a voice, but also for telling the story a bit more broadly. And I think as engineers and accountants that typically run these organisations, we don't always pick up on the soft stuff. And I think we've learned over the last 12 months with a bit of pushing that the soft stuff's really important. And unless you can win the hearts and minds of people, no amount of facts and figures are going to sway them. So a lot of work gone into this campaign. Libby Beath, who's here today, and our corporate affairs team have done an enormous amount of work to get this campaign off the ground and support our community. And we do have one of the little ads which I think is worth watching.
I'm John Mullins, and we've got 2 farms. I farm Mum and Dad's farm, which is about 15 kilometres to the west of the mine, and then I've got a place that's about 7 kilometres to the east of the mine, so both sides of the mine. Yeah, well, we've been here roughly about 60 years, so on this exact place. Well, this is where I'm born and bred, and I know all these people here. My family's here. This is my place. This is where I'm meant to be. This is where I want to be. I love this community and this land, and this mine is exactly what this place needs. If the new Acland mine closes, the main thing is that we'll be losing people from the community, I'd say, and there'll be less money to go around, like the little township of Oakey, and there's little townships dotted everywhere around Acland, like you've got Colpie and you've got Maclagan, Quinlow, and once we start losing these little farms, well, we're going to lose little townships also, and there just won't be the money to go around. Working at New Acland Mine here on the Darling Downs has meant that we could keep our farm. We need our mining jobs to keep our farms. My mum and dad are, they're getting pretty old and they're getting sick too. They're really too old to keep farming, and they really need to be in town, close to the hospitals and things like that. And my main plan at the moment is to buy them out. The wages from the mine and the stability from the mine enables me to be able to do that and keep us here. This farm has been in our family for 60 years. I want it to stay in our family name for another 100.
John or Junior works for us. We've got about 50 of our employees who have small farms in the region, and the only reason they're able to run those farms and have that sort of lifestyle for their families is because they've got, a well-paid mining job to support them. And I think it's really important that that story gets out and people understand that, the vast majority of landholders in that area support Stage 3. They support New Hope as a company, and they want to see the project proceed. One of the other things that we did recently, and some of you will have copies of this on your table, I think, is we engaged Ernst & Young to prepare a report to analyse just the financial impacts of Stage 3 going ahead compared to not going ahead. The New Acland mine contributes in the order of $500 million in economic activity to South East Queensland. If it was to not be approved, there would be about a $7 billion reduction in economic activity over the next 12, 13 years. So it is an enormous contributor. It's something that we're very passionate about and something that we're going to keep using all of the legal and technical and social avenues that we've got to ensure that we get the approval, and hopefully we can achieve that approval in a time frame that means we don't have to shed jobs while we transition from Stage 2 to Stage 3. Acland Pastoral Company, we own about 10,000 hectares of land out at Acland around the mine. We've disturbed about 1,500 hectares and we've rehabilitated about 500 hectares. So put that in perspective, about the amount of land that we disturb, we own 10 times that land in buffer land around the operation. And have spent a significant amount of money, obviously, on that land over a number of years. But I guess what we're trying to demonstrate with our pastoral company is that you can have mining and farming coexisting, and you can have sustainable agricultural industry post-mining. We run around 3,000 head of cattle on that land. It is its own entity, it's its own financial entity, and it makes money. What we also do is look to use that business to undertake cattle grazing trials on rehabilitated land, and we've been doing that for 5 years now, and we're getting fantastic results from the fattening rates and the quality of the cattle that we're grazing on the post-mining rehabilitated land, as good if not better than on non-mine land. Rehabilitation is an enormous focus for us. It's an area that I don't think the industry has done well, but it's an area that we think we do pretty well. And you'll see in this picture here, it's a little hard to make out, but if you can see that mouse pointer there, this Acland Stage 1 operation started out here. The pit is now over here. All of this land there, the coal has been extracted, the overburden's been put back in, it's been shaped, profiled, topsoiled and seeded, and is in varying stages of re-establishment of vegetation, including trees and other things, and that's part of the area that we use for our grazing trials. So at the end of the day, when the new Acland coal mine is long gone, decades down the road, people won't know that there was a coal mine there. They'll see, decent quality agricultural land that's consistent, similar to the surrounding land, and it will be a sustainable agricultural practice. So, we work very hard on that. It is a big focus for us. I like these ones here. This is New Oakley, for those that are familiar with Rosewood. It's about 60 k's from here by car, just south of Marburg. In 2012, New Hope was mining coal at Rosewood. We finished, and since that time, so in the 4 or 5 years since that time, we've backfilled the pit, we've reshaped it, we've re-topsoiled it, we've seeded it, and this is how it looked sort of March this year. It actually looks a bit better now because of obviously all the rain that we've had. Again, what we're really trying to demonstrate is you can sensibly mine areas, you can return them to a really good standard post-mining. This will be either large lot residential or small agricultural lots in the not too distant future. So, you can have both. You genuinely can. You just need to, as an organisation, you just need to commit to doing that, and you need to make sure that your standard is to leave something behind that is a good legacy, and that you think of yourself as a land manager, not just as a coal miner. So just to close, I guess in outlook, financially things going well. From a safety perspective, we're pretty happy with how we're tracking, but that's an ongoing journey. For the first quarter of this financial year, unaudited, our EBITDA was just shy of $100 million, which is significantly higher than it was the same period in the prior year. So financially, things looking very good. The focus is moving forward will be getting the Burton and Lenton operation off the ground, and it will be securing the Stage 3 approvals, which 2018 will be a pivotal year in that perspective as well. So lots on our plate. As I look back at 2017, I think it was a pretty big year, and the problem is I look forward and I can only see a bigger year ahead. But exciting times, good market, and I think lots of positives to look forward to. Thank you.